The sun was a blazing orb in a cloudless sky, casting its golden glow over the bustling beach. Waves gently lapped against the shore, where families, couples, and groups of friends had laid siege with their colorful towels and umbrellas. Amidst this scene of summer bliss, Jeff and I made our entrance, the demon wearing what could only be described as an assault on fashion. Neon shorts festooned with flamingos so bright they could guide ships home, and a matching shirt that screamed tourist louder than a sunburn. "Do you think this is too subtle?" Jeff asked, turning a full circle to showcase his outfit, his tone dripping with a mischief that suggested he knew exactly how ridiculous he looked. I choked back a laugh. "You're practically invisible," I managed, surveying the beach for a spot where we might lay our claim without casting too much of a shadow. Literally and figuratively. We settled near the water's edge, the cool sand a welcome relief under our feet. No sooner had we spread our towels than Jeff's gaze landed on the children nearby, constructing a sandcastle with intense concentration. Human offspring seemed to derive immense pleasure from shaping their environment. "Fascinating," he mused, his eyes glowing with an all-too-familiar spark of curiosity. Before I could reply, Jeff was on his feet, striding towards the children with a determination that spelled trouble. I hurried after him, arriving just in time to hear him volunteer us for a sandcastle competition against the neighboring families. The challenge was accepted with laughter and friendly banter, not knowing the chaotic creativity of the demon they were up against. Jeff, with a flick of his wrist that he thought I didn't see, began to construct not just a sandcastle, but a sand fortress, complete with towers, moats, and a drawbridge. The children's squeals of delight mixed with the bewildered murmurs from the adults as our structure quickly overshadowed the others, literally blocking the sun for a few unfortunate sunbathers nearby. "Jeff, maybe tone down the demonic engineering," I whispered, trying to keep a straight face as a small crowd gathered, phones out, capturing the spectacle. "But I haven't even added the boiling oil defenses yet," he protested, his eyes twinkling with humor. He relented under my glare, dialing back his enthusiasm to mortal levels, though he couldn't resist conjuring miniature sand gargoyles to guard the gateways. As the competition drew to a close, it was clear our castle was in a league of its own, eliciting admiration and a fair share of laughter from the gathering onlookers. Jeff, basking in the attention, accepted the accolades with a flourish, bowing deeply as if he were a king rather than a demonic architect. The day had taken an unexpected turn, and as I watched Jeff interact with our fellow beachgoers, explaining with great enthusiasm the defensive capabilities of our sandcastle, I couldn't help but marvel at the absurdity of it all. Here was a demon, a being from the depths of the netherworld, engaging in the most human of activities and loving every minute of it. "Next year," Jeff declared, his voice carrying over the sound of the waves, "we build a sand empire." And knowing Jeff, he meant every word. The aftermath of our sandcastle saga left us somewhat of celebrities on the beach, with Jeff reveling in his newfound status as the demon architect extraordinaire. However, the limelight was soon to shift, as a new challenge loomed on the horizon. Or rather, right next to the snack bar. Beach volleyball. A group of college students had set up a net and were in the midst of a heated game, their laughter and competitive shouts drawing a crowd. Jeff, ever the competitor, was immediately intrigued. "Is this another of those human rituals of dominance?" he asked, his gaze locked on the flying ball with the intensity of a cat spotting a laser pointer. "More like a fun game," I corrected, but I could see the wheels turning in Jeff's head. It wasn't long before he was marching over, with me trailing behind, to challenge the reigning champions to a match. The students, recognizing us from the sandcastle spectacle, were all too eager to accept, perhaps underestimating the sheer unpredictable force that was Jeff. What followed was a game of beach volleyball like no other. Jeff, determined to dominate, served the ball with such force it broke the sound barrier, rocketing over the net and into the opposing team's court, where it proceeded to bury itself in the sand, leaving a crater in its wake. The players on the other side stared in disbelief, unsure whether to dig for the ball or run for cover. "Point for us, I presume," Jeff said, a smug grin spreading across his face. I hurried to explain that perhaps a little less demonic strength would be advisable, to which Jeff responded by dialing it back to what he considered a human level. His next serve was gentler, but no less chaotic, as it zigzagged through the air in an unpredictable pattern, courtesy of a subtle wind spell, leaving the players on the other team diving and stumbling over each other in a comedic ballet of confusion. As the game progressed, Jeff's enthusiasm only grew. He attempted what he called a teleportation spike, vanishing from one side of the court and reappearing on the other to slam the ball over the net. The move was spectacular, albeit entirely illegal, and resulted in a mix of laughter and bewildered protests from our opponents. The highlight, however, came when Jeff decided to showcase what he assured me was a traditional demon volleyball technique. With a dramatic leap, he spun in the air, summoning a miniature whirlwind around his fist to punch the ball over the net. The ball, now encased in a spiraling vortex, became a veritable missile of confusion, causing the opposing team to scatter as it ricocheted unpredictably between players, umbrellas, and sunbathers, before finally coming to rest atop the snack bar, stealing a bag of chips on its descent. The game ended amidst laughter, applause, and a collective decision that perhaps Jeff's talents were better suited to spectating, or at least playing in a league of his own. The students, good-natured and amused, invited us to join them for a post-game snack, the volleyball forgotten on the roof of the bar. As we sat, enjoying the camaraderie and the beach atmosphere, Jeff, with a chip in hand and a satisfied grin, mused aloud, "Perhaps next I shall invent a sport. Something that combines the strategic depth of chess with the physical prowess required for volleyball. Demon ball, perhaps?" I couldn't help but laugh, imagining the chaos that would ensue. "Let's just stick to volleyball for now," I suggested, to which Jeff only winked, already plotting his next grand adventure on the sandy shores. The volleyball fiasco was still the talk of the beach as Jeff and I wandered along the shoreline, our spirits high from the day's earlier antics. However, Jeff's attention was soon captured by something else entirely: the surfers carving through the waves with grace and skill. "Arthur," Jeff said, his voice filled with awe and a dash of envy, "look at those mortals, dancing with the sea itself. I wish to partake in this surfing." I hesitated, visions of Jeff's last partaking, leading to a volleyball lodged on a snack bar roof, flashing through my mind. But Jeff's enthusiasm was infectious, and before I knew it, we were signing up for surfing lessons. Our instructor was a laid-back surfer dude named Kai, whose zen-like patience was soon put to the test. Jeff, determined to master the waves, approached surfing with the same gusto he did everything else. Full throttle and with a hint of the supernatural. The lesson started off rocky, with Jeff's first attempt at standing on the board resulting in a spectacular wipeout that sent a mini tidal wave crashing onto the shore, soaking bystanders and leaving Kai scratching his head in bewilderment. Undeterred, Jeff tried again, this time invoking a minor water spirit to aid his balance. The spirit, amused by Jeff's request, agreed, and suddenly, Jeff was not just riding the waves, he was commanding them. His board moved with unnatural precision, cutting through the water at alarming speeds, executing turns and tricks that defied physics and left our fellow students gawking in amazement. Jeff's joy was palpable as he rode wave after wave, whooping and hollering like a demon possessed, which I supposed he was. The climax of our surfing adventure came when Jeff, feeling particularly bold, attempted the biggest wave of the day. With a shout of glee, he charged forward, the water spirit lifting him high above the crest. For a moment, Jeff was a silhouette against the sun, a demon conquering the ocean itself. Then, with a dramatic flourish, he leaped from his board, executing a mid-air somersault before splashing down into the water below, emerging moments later with a triumphant grin. The beach erupted in cheers and laughter, Kai shaking his head in disbelief. "Dude," he said to Jeff, "you're either the best natural I've ever seen or... nah, there's no way." As we returned our boards, Jeff, soaked but exhilarated, turned to me. "Arthur, I believe I have found my calling. The sea and I are one." I couldn't help but laugh. "Just don't start any tsunamis," I warned. But Jeff merely winked, already dreaming of his next aquatic adventure. Our Surf's Up, Demons Down day was a testament to Jeff's indefatigable spirit and his uncanny ability to turn even the most ordinary activities into extraordinary escapades. The sea might be his latest conquest, but I knew our adventures were far from over. After the exhilarating surfing episode, Jeff decided that we had not yet fully embraced the quintessential beach experience. Thus, he proclaimed that our next venture would be the construction of a sandcastle. However, knowing Jeff, this would not be any ordinary sandcastle. It would be a fortress worthy of a demon lord. Armed with an assortment of buckets, shovels, and a seemingly endless supply of enthusiasm, we set to work. Jeff, ever the perfectionist, sketched out a blueprint in the sand with a level of detail that would make a civil engineer blush. Moats, drawbridges, towers, and even a dungeon were all part of his grand design. As we built, a crowd began to gather, drawn by Jeff's flamboyant magic as much as his architectural ambition. He conjured walls of sand that rose at his command, shaping them with waves of his hand. I focused on the finer details, sculpting windows and battlements with a concentration I hadn't known I possessed. But then, disaster struck. Or rather, a soccer ball did, launched by a nearby game. It collided with our nearly finished east tower, reducing it to rubble. The culprits rushed over, apologies tumbling from their lips, but they stopped short at the sight of Jeff's glowering face. "Fear not, mortals," Jeff declared, his voice booming with a mixture of drama and mirth. "For this act of war shall not go unavenged." With a dramatic flourish, he pointed to the sky, summoning a small cloud above our sandcastle. Rain began to fall, but only on the ruins of the tower, compacting the sand and making it ideal for reconstruction. The onlookers were in awe, their previous apologies turning into cheers and laughter. Even the soccer players were pulled into the fray, enlisted as knights to defend our sandcastle from any further assaults. As the day wore on, our sandcastle grew not only in size, but in legend. Jeff, reveling in his role as benevolent overlord, led the defense against rogue soccer balls, frisbees, and even the occasional curious dog. Each attack was met with good-natured laughter and increasingly elaborate magical defenses, including a moat that spontaneously filled with water and miniature sand dragons that patrolled the walls. By the time the sun began to set, our sandcastle was no mere child's plaything, but a monument to the joy and creativity of the day. Families and beachgoers gathered around, snapping pictures and marveling at the spectacle we'd created. Jeff, standing atop the highest tower, looked every bit the proud ruler of his sandy domain. As the stars began to twinkle in the twilight sky, the magic of the day lingered in the air, a reminder of the power of imagination and the bonds formed through shared laughter and wonder. Our sandcastle might wash away with the next high tide, but the memories of the sandcastle siege would endure. A testament to the day a demon and his friend brought a beach to life with magic and a dash of the absurd.